We love Washington, and we some die-hard fans. Yeah, we are. And you know we keep it on 10. Let's talk about the offense. 1, 2, 3, let's go. And they gifted. We are Nathan and the Stoner. Yeah, that's Ref the District. Oh, that's the podcast. Come on now and join us. Join it.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Ref the District. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner. Trev coming in at the last minute. Love to see him pop back there. I almost got him on accurately, but and then I goofed, but it's all right. Nobody's ever happy, guys. Nobody's ever happy. Your team is 3-4, and you feel like they're a bottom dweller in the NFL. At least that's how it seems. And then you have Gus here. I give him a piece of the old intro music, which, by the way, was a pain to even find a clip that would work. And here he is asking for the whole thing. That's a minute long, Gus. No one wants to sit through a minute intro for Ref the District, but we do appreciate everybody being in there. I hope everybody enjoys the new background, a little motion happening on the show today here. But Nicole's absolutely right. Smash that like button if you're a Washington fan, and if you are listening to us on an audio platform, make sure that you are subbed as well. Show today, we're going to keep upbeat, we're going to keep positive, and we're probably all going to pick Philly to beat Washington, but we'll save that for the week 8 predictions in the cool down. And then during the game, we'll be talking about the Philadelphia Eagles coming to FedEx Field to take on our Washington Commanders. And to warm us up here, and the don't sleep energy warm up here on Ref the District, there are some serious trade rumblings. It kind of went from, a few people were talking about it. Fans especially were really kind of like, nope, this season's done. Trade everybody type deal. Fire the coaches. Draft, get a first round draft pick for every player on the roster. To all of a sudden now we're hearing that there are actual offers being put in. One for Montez Sweat, which was all right. So we're going to be talking about that here for this warm up, and right off the bat. Okay, I'm going to admit to both of you and to our listeners here, I don't think a trade's going to happen. I just don't see a scenario where it makes sense for Ron Rivera and Marty Mayhew to sell pieces. I just don't see it. That being said, I'm kind of now getting open to the idea of getting pieces back.
Well, I mean, it depends on how you look at it, Nathan. Are you looking at it from a fan's perspective on what you would want to happen? Or are you looking at it from a logical standpoint of what you think will happen in terms of what the front office is going to do?
Yeah, no, front office, they're I would be surprised if their mindset was, oh, well, we should stock up on draft picks for next year.
Right.
They know there's no next year if they don't win, and you don't sell pieces when you're in a win now situation. You acquire pieces. It's like trying to if you're on a sinking ship, Trev, you're not the one trying to bail out water. You're done. You're done.
Yes.
So exactly. Trev, where do you stand on largely these trade rumors around Montez Sweat and Chase Young, which, by the way, are the end of valuable pieces Washington would trade away, which is crazy because they do not have any edge rushers behind them.
No.
So why not try to turn around a defensive tackle that you have a bevy of, and Fedarian Mathis is back on his track to start playing for the first time in his career. Why are we trying to get rid of the one of the few positions we do not have solid depth at?
Makes no sense to me, honestly, because I guarantee whoever we get back or whatever get back is not going to be equivalent to what we're giving away when it comes to Chase Young and Montez Sweat. Here's a thought. Why don't we check the waiver wires or some free agency stuff, see if we can bring somebody in rather than giving away some pieces just to bring draft picks in that we're worried about next year already. It's only week 8. I'm not worried about the draft right now. If we're worried about getting draft compensation back for these trades, that means we're taking the season. The season's over, and we don't care about anything except for the draft next year. And we
But
have
the trade deadline's next week. You either do it now or you don't do it.
Don't do it, because you're not going to get back what you want, and it's not going to
Mm-hmm.
benefit this season. And this fan base, this organization, this city, the community does not have time to wait around again for maybe next year type attitude.
Yeah.
If we got these aggressors in the front office, make something happen. I mean, if it comes to firing a coach, making a trade for a player, do it. But also go look at some free agency. Go get somebody. See if you can bring somebody in. Why you always want to try to give somebody away? Just see if you can get somebody to come play for you, knowing we have a new front office, knowing that we still have a chance that we could be competitive. I don't know,
so it's free agency though you're talking about. So these are guys that are literally sitting on their couch.
That's fine, bro. I mean, because it might be a better chance.
Justin Pugh just beat us. So, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so.
This fan base rallied around a guy whose whole persona came off of sleeping on his sister's couch.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if we get a third or fourth round pick back from Montez Sweat, cool. How does that help this year? It doesn't. It might not even help next year because we don't know who's entering the draft right now outside of the quarterback position. So it's like, just keep what you got. Let them walk in free agency next year if you want to get rid of them so bad. But let them finish out this season and go get somebody off the street or trade somebody else who's not as good as Chase Young and Montez Sweat. Like, I don't know. Wild Goose. Get rid of him. Get rid of Kendall Fuller too if you want to be crazy. If you want, you could trade Kendall Fuller. I don't know, but like, hey, just leave Montez Sweat and Chase Young alone right now. Just leave them alone.
Well, let me throw a couple of ideas out here for you guys and kind of tell me what you think. I think I think we all are pretty much in agreement that Martin Mayhew and Ron Rivera, who are the ones who are putting together this team, they are the GMs of this team, the co-GMs, and Marty Mayhew, Marty, what's the other guy? Marty Meatballs, what's his name?
Herney.
Marty Herney, thank you. You know that these guys know, they know they're not coming back next year. They know that. There's almost zero scenario unless Washington goes on a
10-game win streak. Yeah.
Yeah. They know it. It's just makes sense with a new ownership group. Even if it was the old guy, the previous guy, they're not coming back. So kind of what you were saying there earlier, Nathan, that why would the Martys and Ron set this team up for the future that they are not going to be a part of? But let me posit this theory. What if Josh Harris has basically hired a proxy GM already who is going to call the shots behind the scenes in terms of roster and coaches, at least for an interim basis until they clean house next year?
Do you have your conspiracy music button ready?
I do. I have to figure out where it is because I can't remember anymore.
There we go. How about, because we heard some inklings before the season started, right? There seems to be a bit of a rift in that front office, and somebody was being a little coy about whether or not they were going to want a GM position. They did want to move to the football operations side.
Sure.
What if that person is your proxy who's going to come down or go down the hallway to the Marty's office, to Ron Rivera's office, and says, hey, I have this directive from Josh. You guys are going to play out the season, but this is what you need to do. And that person is Jason Wright.
Right. What are the possibilities? Is there a possibility that somebody is running the team behind the scenes to prepare for a new front office setup for next year? Because again, we all know that Ron is not going to get out there and Ron is not going to say, I'm going to do what I can to set this team up for the future. He's not going to do that because he knows he's not part of that future.
You already said that.
Josh Harris knows that. So why wouldn't Josh Harris have somebody in place making those calls already? I'm just asking the question.
Man.
What's the possibility of that?
I think it's probably a little bit low that we wouldn't have heard any kind of rumblings about it. Like we wouldn't hear that a Kevin Colbert, as Gus is calling for, would be, kind of around the area. So that'd be why I don't think there's any truth to it. I mean, if there is, it would be Jason Wright, like I said,
Right.
who's been trying to position himself to get into the football operations side and might have those thoughts. And Josh Harris was one of the biggest proponents and the starters to the process in Philadelphia. So it could be that they want to kickstart this, and they're probably looking at some options here, especially as the team looks like it. Like Marty and Ron and Jack Del Rio and Eric Bieniemy all need to be going to Josh Harris's office, and they need to be pleading their cases why they think they could win out or do better the rest of the season. Because right now, at 3-4, they are still in the thick of it. And so this is where it comes down to when Trev, you didn't sing it this time.
Into the thick of it. Into the thick of it.
I said that right now they're in the thick of it. And you let
I'm
me
just
down,
listening,
Trev.
not even paying. I'm just listening to his theory.
It was in my head. I was like, into the thick of it. And I don't even know what that's from.
When you are playoff pushing, right? Sellers are losing, like you said, Trev. When you sell players off, that's indicating like, okay, this season isn't it. Let's prepare for next season.
I actually disagree with that, but
buyers tend to be trying to get that last piece to make a move, which most of us would agree you would want to look at an offensive lineman. But how many offensive linemen are typically traded mid-season and worth the trade? I've been Googling and I can't find a single one that was worth it. I mean, there might have been some that were traded. There was Pittsburgh Steelers traded offensive lineman fullback Kendrick Green to the Houston Texans back in 2021.
Yeah.
Not going to go ahead and say, not going to say that's worth it, right? Like we're not talking Trent Williams for a 5th rounder. That was before the season. That was before the season.
But how many are released? Kind of like we've seen in the last few days. We've seen like a Frank Clark and the guy yesterday that Philly picked up, and the guy that Tennessee picked up today, the safety. My names are all jumbled in my head. But guys, how many offensive linemen have been released and then picked up by other teams around this time? But the point is very well taken that, as Gus says here, they don't become available even if they're halfway decent.
Yeah.
Because guys like Justin Pugh get picked up off the couch, or other guys' practice squads. That's how they get on other teams, just because everybody needs offensive linemen. Nobody's out there saying, no, we don't need any offensive linemen.
We've got a bevy of offensive linemen. Let's just get rid of them. Not too many teams have that. Thanks for the correction, Gus. It was Sam Hinkie was the blueprint creator of the process
prior to Josh Harris becoming the owner.
Okay. So thank you for that clarification there. So now that we've gotten this out of the way that we don't think it's going to happen.
You
think it's going to happen?
But continue. Yes.
Okay. I don't think it's going to happen. Trev, you don't think it's going to happen. I just don't see it happening.
Trev's on the fence. I think one of them is getting traded.
I've been starting to look at it and reading Sam 4080's article in the Washington Post and kind of seeing like, well, one, the market seems a little cold on both of them. If people are saying that a 5th rounder, and of course it's absurd. You're going to start, if you're going to try to trade, right? You're going to be like, hey, I'll give you you're not really winning this season. I'll give you a 4th for Chase. And then we have to come back and be like, come on, bro. That's not happening.
What are you doing, bro?
You gotta go a little bit better, right? The thing is, everyone keeps bringing up the comp picks, which Sam 48 touches on the Washington Post article. Washington's not really guaranteed to get a comp pick for either of these two players leaving. The way it's based is, if they sign big contracts, that's going to go in Washington's favor unless Washington signs somebody to a big contract. So
then it offsets.
and then it offsets.
Mm-hmm.
Now, also comp picks would be for 2 years removed, right? So it's
Right.
not an instant thing. It's not like you're going to get, Chase Young is a free agent and then he signs with somebody and you're going to get a comp pick that year.
Mm-mm.
You're going to have to wait a year.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are like, well, we need to get at least a third,
Right.
but do you actually getting a third is actually a third next year would actually be valuable to Washington.
Right.
Maybe.
But you have to think about it though, Nathan, is you have to think logically about it. Is Chase Young going to sign? Let's assume that he's going to have the type of season that he's having now. And Montez Sweat is going to have the type of season he's having now. Are they going to sign big contracts with somebody next year? Yes, they are going to sign big contracts.
Whoever doesn't get traded gets franchise tagged
probably. And
easily.
that, by the way, and that is why I think one of them is going to get traded, because they know full well, we've been talking about it really for 2.5 years, that they are not going to sign both Chase Young and Montez Sweat to 5-year, $75 million contracts, both of them, when you've already got Payne and Allen on that line making that kind of money. It's not going to do it. They're not going to do it. So they're going to lose one or the other. That's why I think they're going to trade one or the other. And I think they're probably going to trade Montez Sweat, and they're going to keep Chase.
So too. Yep.
And that also doesn't mean they're going to sign Chase in the offseason. But I think they're going to trade Montez. They're going to get something for him. And because they're not going to, if he walks, they're not going to get something for him in the offseason unless, of course, you have the whole comp picks work out in your favor. Right. But with the amount of space, cap space, that the Commanders have next year, which, if all things work out, they've got like $80 plus million. Yeah. You don't think they're going to sign a big-time free agent next year? Of course they are.
No, we won't.
We have no idea who that's going to be. So that's going to offset whatever Chase and or Montez makes out there, and that will take away your comp pick. They have to get something for one of these two because they're not going to sign both of them. So I think it would be malpractice if they don't, because they're not going to the playoffs. Their 3 wins are Denver, Arizona, and Atlanta. 3 of the worst teams in the league, even though Atlanta's 4-3.
Stoner is back in the building.
Well, they're not. Is anybody in here going to tell me that Washington is going to the playoffs?
Hey,
nah.
We are, what are we, 4 losses right now? So what's that make it?
We're
13-4 until I find out otherwise.
Holy smokes.
We're going to find a way to beat Philly. Sorry, not sorry,
yeah, we are.
Allison. We're going to find a way to beat Philly. And we're going to instill some hope in everything in us. And when this comes down to it. So the question from a division rival, mind you.
Hey,
Gandera the comedian is in the house. Thanks for joining us. Would you guys be okay with Chase or Sweat traded to a division foe?
No, you hate to see your guys that started their NFL career with go to a somewhere else, let alone a division opponent. Number one, it's just a weird thing to look at. Number two, it's like everything you said in the beginning is a lie because you chose to go play there. And then third, it's like they know everything they know our tendencies. They know who we are. They provide intel for us. No, I don't like it. Can't stand it. I cannot stand it.
I agree, Trev. I don't think you do that. You can't do it. You play these guys 2 times a year, every year. It's not like this is an every other year kind of deal, or you play them once every 7 years, which is the way it is for some of the other teams. No. Absolutely. You do not trade them within division.
By the time you would complete this trade, you would have already faced Philadelphia and the Giants once.
Right. But we're talking about next year. And we don't want
to see anybody
that
else
they signed
with
that
players.
Team.
Chances are they will.
More than likely, whoever they get traded with, they're going to work really hard to get a long-term deal. I I'm in line with you guys. I think you keep Chase Young, you franchise him. You made a mistake not picking up his 5th-year option. Too late. We can't go back over that.
Yep.
So that puts you in the position. If you would have taken the 5th-year option, you can franchise tag Montez Sweat.
Right.
And trade Cam Curl.
Try to play him out on that franchise tag or trade him then. But because you left it to both of them being open at this point to get something, you're just going to have to get there. Now, the thing is this is just going to be draft value, and it's probably not going to be as high as we'd want. I mean, you probably are looking at a 4th or 5th round pick for Montez Sweat. Is that good enough? I mean, Lord knows if we got a 2nd, it's going to be wasted anyways. But I mean, wouldn't that be ideal to at least get a 3rd round pick?
Oh, well, what would be ideal is if you get 3 first-round picks. That's ideal.
Or a player of the same
if
caliber,
that's the best you can do, is get a 4th rounder, well, that's better than letting him walk and getting absolutely nothing for him. So yes,
what if that 4th round pick turns into Brian Danielson, whoever we have, Braden Daniels. Yeah. What if that happens?
I mean,
or Fedarian Mathis.
Okay, what if that 4th round pick turns into Cam Curl? What if it turns into Brock Purdy? What if it turns into Tom Brady? What if
Cousins was a 4th round pick, and people are asking if we're going to sign him in the chat?
Right.
Oh my gosh, no. Lord, no. One primetime win, and now it's like, oh, we need Kirk Cousins. Nah, we don't.
Now, if you ask me in terms of in division, if you say Philadelphia will give you a 2nd and a 3rd for Montez Sweat, would I trade to in division? Oh, yeah. That I would do. But to Philadelphia for like a 5th rounder in 2025, no, I'm not doing that. And if that's the best offer I got, then he's walking. Because then I weigh my value versus risk, and he can walk and go sign with Philadelphia if he so chooses. But no, I'm not going to willingly sign him or send him to a division rival for a 5th round pick. Not me. I can't be the guy.
I do like that 2nd and 3rd. I think that is a deal. I think that is a deal you have to take. And as much as I like Tez, and you can rewind this all the way back to the beginning of the season, I said Montez is the guy to keep over Chase Young. He's been more consistent. If they both have excellent seasons, you keep Montez if you can sign him to a long-term deal, because he's proven year in, year out, he plays within the system. He is a very capable pass rusher. That being said, when all is said and done, this guy is like maybe 30th best pass rusher, if that.
Yeah, bro. He's not
like we're not talking about a top 10 guy. Chase Young could be a top 10 pass rusher. In fact, if you look at his statistics right now, he is doing better than the reigning defensive player of the year. Okay, he's getting there, and he's doing it in one less game.
Yep.
So I'm changing my tune a little bit. You get rid of, and then like you said, you got to franchise tag Chase Young and hope that he can continue playing at that level.
Yeah.
I'm not here to poo-poo on Chase like I normally do, because
holy cow.
Right, I'm not here to do that. But let's not talk about his stats this year without saying
the defense has not been good. The defense
has there been any game-changing plays that he's made? And I don't even really care personally in terms of if he's having a great year. Let's say he's having a TJ Watt type of year, but the defense is still 29th or 30th in all the categories. I'm signing that guy to a long-term deal, right? Because of the potential to play with other players in future years.
Sure.
But Chase Young is having a good season. He's not making any game-changing plays. Regardless of what the defense is doing as a whole, he's not changing games around like he did his rookie year.
There are two or three halves that I specifically remember calling out during our play-by-play and commentary, where Chase Young was the one player who was trying his best to turn around the game, who was being disruptive, who was getting back there, who was returning to that rookie year. Now, we haven't seen a full game of it like we did his rookie year against San Francisco, but we've seen those halves that he's put together where he has been the driving force to getting this defense back into, like take, for instance, the Giants not scoring any second half points. A large part of that was Chase Young was just an absolute menace.
Yes.
So there have been
disruptive,
those halves.
but he hasn't been game changing. I'm talking about, look at some of these guys. Again, I'm not trying to really poo-poo on him. I'm just trying to say that he's not doing anything worthy of some sort of huge contract and everything. Because look at some of these look what the TJ Watts. Again, I'll keep bringing these same guys up because they are game changers. And the Bosas, at least, Nick Bosa out in San Fran, and the Von Millers. And who was it the other last week? I can't remember. Well, who was it?
I said Khalil Mack was 6 sacks a couple weeks ago.
Right. And there was somebody last week, and it's just escaping me again. The names are all jumbled in my head. They have it was the guy from Cleveland, Myles Garrett. Right? They gave up 38 points or something to the Colts. But Myles Garrett had 3 sacks. He had 4 tackles for losses. He had a blocked field goal, 2 knockdown passes. You know what I mean? He dominated the game and he made game-changing plays. Now, obviously, they still gave up a lot of points.
Yeah.
But he was completely dominating that game. And that's what I need from a guy like Chase. That's kind of my point in terms of signing him. I don't have any reason to sign him other than tag him and give him one more year to do it. Otherwise, I'm letting him go. And same with Montez, by the way.
Code Talker, trading either one of them would reduce Ron's chances of keeping his job. No disagreement.
Nope.
No disagreement. I mean, this Allison pointed out we have 7 defensive ends. When I said that is not an area we have a lot of depth. She pointed out the number of players. Alcatone saying, plus we got Toucan Sam, which is Casey Toohill.
Is that his nickname?
That's who Alcatone's calling him.
Oh.
The thing is Casey Toohill is Casey Toohill, folks. I know. I know he got the 2 sacks and 18 snaps, and everybody, to include these two, going this way here, are and he only got 10 snaps against the Giants. It's Casey Toohill. He got the same percentage of snaps. He got the same percentage of snaps. You played 83 snaps against Atlanta. He got 18. He gets 2 sacks there. I'm not saying that's not impressive, but go ahead and look at all the other games where he's had 18 snaps and 0 sacks. Okay?
Right, 0 impact at all.
1 good game, and that was it. And he goes back to his 10. Casey Toohill, James Smith-Williams, KJ Henry, Andre Jones. These are the guys you're going to see out there if Montez Sweat or Chase Young get traded. And I'm sorry, that's just not going to cut it. I mean, they're okay, but they're not great. Yes, this defense was okay and top 5 by a lot of metrics by the end of the season, with Chase Young not having played but the last 3 games. But they are not. I get that most of you don't think Chase Young and Montez Sweat can be game changers, but they are really good players. And the talent drop off between them and the guys behind them is significant. Okay.
Yeah, fair.
This isn't putting Cornelius Lucas out there for Charles or Wiley, where the talent drop off is minimal.
Right.
The talent drop off is significant.
Yes, it is.
I totally agree.
Which is why we should not trade either one of defensive ends if we want to make a little noise or make at least a little progress this year. Keep them both and let them do whatever they do in the offseason. If you're going to trade somebody else.
There we go. Bosa having a rough season, by the way. Tommy T bringing up that Bosa had 0 sacks against the Vikings, 0 game-changing plays. I mentioned Chase Young having a better season than Bosa. Bosa is not having a great season this year, despite the fact that 49ers defense has been fairly impressive, although they've lost now a few questionable games, probably because Brock Purdy is Brock Purdy. Like I've been telling you all this time.
They didn't even touch Kirk in that game.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins didn't even touch him once. The defense didn't.
Probably because they got the best left tackle in the game, a guy who Washington could have picked up, but we're not going to go there. We're gonna go into Philadelphia after talking about Louis' comment. A little off topic, Louis says, but any long snapper available? I really distrust Cheeseman. Yeah, Cheeseman was my no-go for this past game because I thought his snap issue was getting better, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing Tressway pick up these snaps off the ground or having to go high for them. I was really worried that he was going to send one sailing over Tressway's head and we were just going to give up a defensive touchdown that way. But thankfully it didn't happen.
Which is weird because weren't his snapping problems earlier in the year
on the kickoff? Yep.
And now all of a sudden it's with the punting. So we haven't seen any issues with the kicking now. And now it's with the punting. I don't know.
They traded up for Cheeseman. They traded up in the draft and drafted a long snapper, and this long snapper is now looking like he's going to have.
Somebody call Nick Sundberg and see if he's still healthy or not.
Why not?
Retired now. He probably retired at this point. Probably smart for him to do, and it's probably smart for us not to get too involved in this team as they face the Philadelphia Eagles this Sunday. But you just know we rock these burgundy and gold glasses, and we're going to tell you just how Washington can beat those filthy Eagles coming up here in the game.
The game is brought to you by Pacers Running Stores. Pacers has 5 stores in Northern Virginia and DC. For the best running footwear, apparel, and gear, just stop by or schedule a virtual fitting with the best running experts in the business. Pacers Running exists to help as many people as possible through running. For every run, it's Pacers Running.
Welcome back to the game. The game on Sunday is at FedEx Field. And if you're going to it, let us know and make sure you hit that like button if you're here watching live with us, as we are live every Wednesday here on YouTube. No Facebook today because StreamYard had a connection issue on that. So,
Didn't realize that.
just know that wasn't our issue. That was a technical issue on the back end between Facebook and StreamYard. So if you normally catch this on or on Facebook, we apologize. If you catch this on any of our audio platforms that you can see on the bottom graphic going in and out of the screen there, make sure that you're subbed up there as well. Philadelphia Eagles rematch. Gentlemen, this was the game that we thought we didn't have a chance 4 weeks ago. And then we bring this game to overtime. We had a chance to win it in regulation if they went for 2. They did not. Ron Rivera said his team was tie it and did not go for 2. So they go to overtime. They get 1 drive, don't do anything. Philadelphia kicks a field goal and wins it. Much closer than every one of us predicted. Now these 2 teams seem to be going in opposite directions because since then, Washington has laid stinkers to 2 of the worst teams in the NFL. And meanwhile, Philadelphia is embarrassing some of the better teams in the NFL.
Although they lost to the Jets, just saying.
They did lose to the Jets. They
did.
Also beat Miami. Absolutely beat the books off of Miami.
Yes, they did.
I would take the Miami win over that Jets loss as an indicator of who Philadelphia is.
Right. I agree.
So now, as Shadow Pop is mentioning, Commanders did beat Philly last year, and they can do it this year if they play their best game. Important to note, Jalen Hurts is expected to play, but banged up a little bit. So that might help Washington. And then we have a few more injuries and updates that Stoner's going to give us here.
Boy,
the injuries and updates.
I off the top of my head, I probably do. But what was Washington's record last year when they beat an undefeated Eagles team? So it was 10. Right? They were 10-0 or 11-0.
11-0. Philadelphia.
So what was Washington? I mean, was Washington around 500, or were we doing our usual like 3-8 sort of thing? I can't remember. I can't even remember the name of Myles Garrett. So I'm gonna need people's help to tell me
what
Washington's record was.
4-5.
4-5. So
and
maybe
Philly was 8-0.
They were
They're 8-0. That's what it was.
Yeah. All right. So we were like a 500 team. It was basically like it is now, where Washington is 3-4. And what are they? 5-2?
They have one loss.
They only have one loss.
Yeah.
They're 6-1.
The game against
yes,
the Jets is the only game they've
This
lost.
Oh,
They're
good
6-1.
Lord.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to continue
So-
then? Go ahead. Tell us.
So I just wanted to kind of gauge when we were talking about last year, comparing last year to this year. I just wanted to kind of gauge where the both teams were last year and where they are this year. I think that I think the chances of them beating Philly are a lot higher than people are giving. But do you want me to do the injury report now?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get that out of the way, and then we'll let you finish up that thought process that you're having. That's saying Washington has a much better chance, and because injuries and updates are a part of that, as far as how they could potentially upset the Eagles.
All right, so Cody Barton didn't practice. I mean, the first one you brought up, of course, was the important was Fedarian Mathis came off of IR. Now he's in the 21-day window where they have to either decide they're going to sign him to the 53 or they are going to put him on IR for the rest of the year. So they have 3 weeks in order to do that. So the rest of the guys, Cody Barton did not practice today. We saw him get his leg rolled up on in that game, early in the game, and he didn't return. So he did not practice today. Sadiq Charles did not practice today either. We saw him go out and his calf, I think. Let me see what the specific test. Yep, his calf. And again, we've been talking about this for a couple of years. He's got calves the size of bowling balls. It's no wonder that he's constantly hurting his calf. All right, so he did not practice today, and Curtis Samuel with his foot did not practice today. Cosme has a hip deal. He was limited in practice. Cole Turner has an ankle. He was limited in practice. John Allen was full practice, although he's complaining of a knee. Montez Sweat was a full practice with his finger issue that he had in the last game. Kendall Fuller took a vet's day off today. He gets a lot of those. He had a couple last week, so good for him.
Hey, he's nearly 30 years old, so you got to take those.
Right.
Got to take those breaks when you can.
So those are the Washington. That's the Washington injury report.
So Stoner, because I interrupted you and threw you in under the bus to give us the injuries and updates there, and we'll get more onto the Fedarian Mathis aspect there in a little bit. But you think that it's going to be closer? Why is that?
I think it's going to be closer because Philadelphia, even with their record, putting their record aside, they have not really been dominating a whole lot this year like they did last year. They dominated teams last year in their run all the way to the Super Bowl, although they should not have been in the Super Bowl if San Fran's quarterbacks didn't get hurt in that game. But Jalen Hurts hasn't been great. He's completing a high percentage of his passes, and it's about 67% of his passes. But he's got 8 touchdowns and 7 picks. I know another quarterback in the NFC East who has about those same numbers. Yards, passer rating, completion percentage, touchdowns, interceptions, all that. Sam Howell has about the same numbers. I'm not saying Sam Howell is as good as Jalen Hurts. I'm just saying these are some of the reasons why Philadelphia can be beaten. They run the ball well. They throw the ball well. They stop the run very well. They're number one. What their weakness is twofold. Number one, they're not great at stopping the passing game. Washington has not proved to have a good passing game the last few weeks, but that's where they have been lacking defensively. And they don't get turnovers. They do not force a whole lot of turnovers. They've gotten 3 interceptions all year, and they're actually minus in the turnover ratio. So if you continue to do that and you don't commit any turnovers and you force 1 or 2 against them, you've got a shot to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. There you go.
No, you don't.
I mean, to be fair, Trev,
we don't, bro.
Ron Rivera, as a coach of the Washington franchise, is 3-4 against the Eagles. So it's not like he's been awful against this team.
Take that, Trev.
He's been able to best them.
Cool.
3 times, almost 50% of the times they played. This time it could make it to 500. Not going to happen,
Nope.
Trev. Why is
Nah,
that?
man. Because we can't even run an offensive play without getting. We have 40 sacks. Somebody made the comment, if we play our best game, we have no idea what that is because we can't keep our quarterback upright to make a play.
Yeah.
We can't. We score 7 points against the 1-5 New York Giants. They hadn't scored, and all these stats, like what their weakness at and what they have a tendency of doing, it's great. But when time to play us, those stats act like they don't exist. People have come in with low sack numbers. They beat their sack total number in one game against us. They come in with a bad rush defense. We can't run the ball. They come back. They come in with a bad pass defense. They sack us. We can't even give them a chance to see if they're a bad air defense or not.
That's true.
And the only way we have a chance of winning this game is if we sign a contract with Philly saying no pass rush allowed from you guys. And you see if our quarterback can actually beat you guys.
3-second rule, guys. 3 seconds.
Yeah. I hate to be like that, but it's true. Like, we can't even complete an offensive series without getting a sack. We give Sam Howell no chance to see what we've seen glimpses of what he can do, but he hasn't played a clean game all year. He's been on the ground at least 4 times every game. So it's going to be really hard up against this Philly defense, who just keeps I don't know what Howie Roseman got or how much money he has, or if it's a secret with the commission or whatever, but he'd be going to get players to add to the already star-studded team they have. Kevin Beers, safety from Tennessee Titans, all-pro, Pro Bowl safety, kind of fell off because it's Tennessee, but he's going to revive his career in Philly, no doubt. They always seem to go get people just to add to that strong defense. And personally, we said the Bears had bad sacks. They came in and wrecked us. We said the Giants can't score a touchdown in the first half all year. They scored 2 against us. So whatever Philly is showing weakness in, they're going to strive in it against us. It is what it is, guys. I hate to be like that, but the way we've been playing on offense is so unfair to our defense. We're not playing complimentary football. Our defense.
Okay, Trev. I hear you, Trev.
I'm just hot, bro.
I do not disagree with anything you're saying. I just want to add a little bit more to it to maybe think a little bit differently.
Okay.
All these things you said are true. But in that first meeting against Philadelphia, Washington did a lot of those things that kept them in the game, was leading in the game, leading at halftime, no less. And they kept coming back on Philadelphia time after time. The offense was basically unstoppable in that game. Washington's was. Philadelphia did have sacks, but what did they have? 4 or 5? So
5 sacks.
So they had 5 sacks. So it wasn't like a Bills thing where they had 9 or anything. Now 5's too many. I get it. But over the course of that game, when your offense is humming, you're probably going to get a few more sacks than normal. They couldn't stop the offense, Trev. Philadelphia could not stop Washington's offense that game. This is a week-to-week league. This is all about matchups. Some teams you don't match up well against. Some teams you do. Washington just seems to match up a lot better against Philly these last few years. Not to the point of they're dominating Philly. I'm just saying that they're in most of these games against Philly, if not winning them. They lost in overtime, Trev, to Philadelphia.
It was week 2.
It was week 4.
It was week 4.
Okay, week 4.
Okay.
We've gotten worse since then. So all of a sudden now, since we played them close 4 weeks ago, we're going to play them close again?
I'm saying the possibility is there because the matchups are in your favor. You're not going to have Emmanuel Forbes covering A.J. Brown.
We don't have anybody that can cover A.J. Brown. That's the problem. He's A.J. Brown.
But that's maybe where you're going to have to play a little bit more zone instead of going man-to-man against, a top 10 receiver. Maybe you don't do that. We can't play
zone. We don't have any linebackers to cover the zone either. So it doesn't matter what defense we play. We're going to get thrashed.
Respect on Miracle Whip's name, all right?
Yeah.
Put some respect on Miracle. Don't you want to see David Mayo lined up across from Goddard or Devontae Smith? Yeah. Don't you want to see that? Isn't that excite you just a little bit on the inside?
I can't wait.
Might be Milo Eichler in there for Mayo to be on these. Come on.
Nah, man.
It's going to be a rough game. I'm not going to say that it's not. But right? St. Juice had a great game against AJ Brown last year. This year, AJ Brown went off. Emmanuel Forbes ended up getting benched because of how bad that game was, and the next game that he played. But you're absolutely right, Stoner. This is a division game. NFL's any given Sunday. You wouldn't have expected, the Patriots, who've looked awful all year, to beat the Bills, who most people consider one of the Super Bowl contenders, right? So this is very possible in a game that was a 3-point overtime loss for the Washington Commanders to not continue doing things. I'm not saying it's likely. Everything points to this being a Philadelphia victory.
Right.
What we're trying to say is it's not as hopeless as people are making it out to be. By the way, I just looked this up. So those 5 sacks, Washington scored 10 points off of the drives that had a sack in them against Philadelphia. So
that's shocking.
One of those touchdowns that we talked about.
Again, when Washington sacked Philly.
No. When Sam Howell was sacked,
they still scored
10 points. They got a field goal off of one drive, and the final drive that sent them to overtime, he was sacked on that drive. They still scored a touchdown, put on the extra point, went to overtime.
Wow. That's
so
totally
3 other drives were punted, but they were actually able to put points up when he was sacked in the game against Philadelphia, which I think is important. And
I think so too.
And honestly, when rethinking about that game, 5 seems like a lot of times to be on your back, but Washington was doing really well and sustaining drives. They absolutely were. The offense was humming against, and I mean, there's no other way to put it. They put up 31 points. To me, that's humming. Anyone want to disagree with me? That's
no,
it's humming there.
That's humming. Yeah.
So they had 28 rushing attempts, and they had 41 passing attempts. So tack on 46. So was that 46 and 28 plays? I mean, that's a considerable amount of plays to be running on offense. That's a successful offense.
Correct.
And Washington can do it. Now, that being said, gentlemen, Gus brings up this very valid point here. This is going to be the first repeat opponent for Sam Howell. How's that going to work out? Because now they've seen him. He's got a lot more tape on him. Can he repeat that performance? Or is this actually going to go in Washington's way because this is an opponent he is familiar with?
Glass half full, Nathan, as opposed to glass half empty. He knows what their tendencies are on defense now. So why can he not improve?
That's what film is for.
Okay.
You watch film for a reason.
Okay.
Doesn't matter if you faced them or not before. Tyson or Tyler Badgett is a D2 quarterback and has never faced an NFL defense ever. Came in and beat the Raiders on a Bears team that beat us. It doesn't matter if he's seen them before already once in the field.
I am only refuting the point from Gus. I'm not refuting it as a whole. I'm not out here to say he's going to be better because he's seen them for the second time. But Gus is saying that Philadelphia is going to be even better against Sam Howell because it's the second time. And all I'm saying, well, if that's the case, why can't I say, well, this is the second time Sam Howell has seen them? Why can't Sam Howell be better? If what you say is true, then why can't what I say be true?
Because we're not that good enough to
that has nothing to do with it. Well, because Dan Snyder was the owner for 25 years, therefore the name is cursed and the franchise is cursed and we never win, so therefore we can't beat Philly and Sam can't have a good game. That's a bunch of malarkey, bull crap. You can't use that type of logic. All I'm doing is refuting what Gus said. It's a possibility, not saying that that's what's going to happen.
Right.
Well, Stoner, you have been hypercritical of Eric Bieniemy.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Massively.
Now, this is a game that Washington actually earned one of their closest. I think you have the stats. You'll have to tell us whether or not it is the actual game where their run pass percentage was the greatest on the rushing side. Obviously, they've always tipped to the passing attack.
Yeah.
But is this the closest? Was this the one that they had the closest kind of ratio?
No, this is not. The closest they've had was the closest they had, I believe, was against Atlanta. But I mean, just in the game, no. I'll just say that it's not.
Yeah.
It is the closest that they've had in terms, I don't know how to frame it. They've had the most balance against Philadelphia when they have been either even or within one score. So when the game has been close, which was most of the game, they have a better balance of running versus passing against Philadelphia. However, as much as I've been sitting here pounding the table about running the dang ball over and over and over again all these weeks, I'm not saying that this week. I think this is the week they actually do need to throw it more. They need to have better balance. I'm not talking about stick with the 66% passing. They need to have better balance, but they do need to throw the ball a lot in this game to win this game. Not just because they're behind,
Wow.
but because that's what Philadelphia's weakness is if they have one.
But guess
But
what?
they still need
Stoner?
to run it. They still need to run it.
If we need to pass it more, it's going to make it harder for our offense to do because we can't even get the ball out of Sam Howell's hands without him getting sacked or pressured.
Right. But
So-
you can do things to mitigate that.
That look.
You
I
can.
wish
Eric
there's a
Bieniemy
way
can.
to put that.
He can't
in
get out
audio,
there and
that
protect
look in
himself.
audio.
I mean, he can call the protections, but the weakness of our offensive line is not EB's fault. He didn't pick the offensive line. Now he could adjust and maybe cater to what they're good at, but our offensive line is not good at anything.
Oh, well,
They're just not.
I refute that, but okay. They're good at running the ball, Trev. They're not great at it, but they're good at it. If they can run at 4.3 yards per carry over the course of an entire
I'm about to look this up.
7 games so far, if they
I'm
can
gonna
do
look it up.
that, why is that not good enough? And Nathan and I have had these conversations offline for hours at a time about
we
this.
literally were talking for an hour today about
But-
this in analytics in general.
4.2 yards per carry on average is good. And it's top 12 in the NIFL in the NFL. If he would
Really?
do that, if he would allow them to run the ball a little bit more than he has, and if he calls short passes, what made the offense go in the second half against the Giants? As bad as it was in the first half, when it was putrid in the first half, what made it go in the second half?
The muff
When he
punt
started-
when we got the ball in their territory. That's what made
When
it
he
go.
started rolling out, when he started throwing quick passes, what worked against Denver quite a bit? Screen plays. All of these things, that's what you do to mitigate a pass rush. You get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly. The first throw that Sam Howell had was he snapped it, he turned, and he threw the ball out to the flat to Curtis Samuel. Way over his head, but it was the right play because they were playing off coverage on him. If he would
Sonny.
just do that more, then that will keep Sam from getting sacked. Watch. I hate to do this because I don't like comparisons, but watch what made Tom Brady so successful year after year after year after year. He wasn't throwing the ball downfield all the time, except for the 1 or 2 years with Randy Moss. He was just getting it, throwing it. Why do those running backs always lead the league in receptions for running backs in New England? Why were they such stud fantasy players of guys you never heard of? Because he'd get the ball, he'd dump it. He'd get the ball, he'd throw it. He'd get the ball, throw it. Throw it to Gronk over here. Throw it to Gronk real quick. And he never gets sacked. And he was great at being in the pocket and all that other stuff. But the offense was designed to get the ball out of his hands quickly. And that's how you stop getting your quarterback killed. It's not
Well, for
rocket science. It's not.
For the rushing attack that you're preaching about, in
Mhm.
7 games, we're averaging 86.1 yards a game in rushing.
Yep.
Brian Robinson in 7 games has rushed the ball for 85 times for 325 yards, averaging 3.8.
Right.
Stoner, we are not a good rushing team. Our
Okay.
opponents have rushed for 125.7 yards in 7 games.
We're not
And
talking
we
about the
played
opponents.
but
We're
our
talking
rushing
about
is our
Washington's
rushing is worse than our
running game.
opponents, and this is who we played: the Bears, the Cardinals, the Broncos,
Trev,
the Giants, the Eagles.
Washington is.
and
Give me
the
that number
Bills.
again. Give me that number again, Trev. How many yards per game? 85 yards per game.
86.1. That's awful.
86.1 yards per game that Washington is averaging. And star that comment, Nathan. I want to come back to that.
Okay.
Trev, now
Yes.
look at where they are in attempts per game and where that
Attempts per
ranks.
game?
Yeah.
I don't know where it ranks, but we ran the ball 143 times.
For an average of what? Now I can tell you because I know it off the top of my head.
4.2.
Right. I'm talking about the number of times per game that they rush the ball.
Oh,
143 divided by 7. I can do it in my head just because I already know the number.
it's like 20
It's
some number.
20.7.
Yeah.
Okay. Or 20.4, one of the two, whatever.
Okay.
That's DFL. Do you know what DFL means? Does anybody know what DFL means?
I know what
DFF
DTF is.
You know what the F stands for.
Football.
No. Dead
Okay,
effing last.
Okay.
The number of times that they average running the ball is DFL. It's last in the league. And I think
Right.
Gus is probably going to come in and say something about that because I don't think it's actually, I think it's 30th. But the point being, I'm trying to emphasize here is that they don't run the ball enough, Trev. That's why they don't have as many yards. 4.2 yards per carry, Trev, is what? 12th.
That's awful.
That's 12th in the league.
12th
It's
for the
not
league
awful.
is not bad.
Just run it more. If you keep that same average, 4.2, you're going to average, and you run the ball 25 times a game. That's another 20 yards per game.
Even if you
And then you
count,
come on here next week.
106 yards per
Well,
game.
you're going to say pass the daggone ball. Next week, if that happens, you're going to say that.
even if they were to have a little bit more failure in there, right? What's so if they're 12th now at 4.2, I don't know if someone has the list up. You know, what's
I can get it.
4 point? What's 4 yards a carry in the NFL? I mean, that's a first down if you run 3 times.
Right.
So
what are you asking?
So my point is if they run it 25 times, but they still only if they drop from 4.2 yards a carry to 4 yards a carry, that's still somewhat successful and something they can do.
Yeah, but you're asking a hypothetical.
Well,
I'm giving you.
You're the one
number.
who's saying that they got to run the ball more, and that's a big hypothetical with Eric Bieniemy calling the offensive play.
No, I'm saying you over 7 games, you're averaging 4.2 yards per carry. So you can assume that in every game, you're going to average about 4.2 yards per carry. So if you just up your number of times you rush by 5, now you've added 21 yards to your average, and now you're at 107 yards per game rushing.
Oh, wow.
Where does that
we
rank?
broke the 100 mark.
Where does that rank, Trev?
I don't know.
Where does
probably
107
12
yards?
or 11s.
Let's see. I'll tell you right now. I got it right here. Yards per game. Rushing. Man, Miami averages 163.
Yeah. So this
gonna have a couple of-
107 means nothing.
They had a couple of good runners that are both now
3, 4,
injured.
5, 6.
And
It
while
moves you
he's
up
opening
7 spots, and all I did was suggest running 5 more times per game.
That's if
we'll
we
push you up
average the same
7
amount
times.
of each carry, though.
Right. Well, that's what an average does for you.
Yeah. And this, Allison, this is what I was trying to say. There was just like Allison saying more reps don't guarantee the same average. I was saying add those reps, reduce the average by 0.2. Let's say, because let's just say that they have a little bit of regression there. Okay.
Mhm.
Because they're running more and it's getting stopped a little bit more.
Okay.
All right. Even then, you're still adding 20 rushing yards at 4 yards a carry compared to 4.2.
Right.
Even if you
And
get
what if-
3.8, you're still doing more than what you had been before.
And what if you average more?
You know,
You
it's
said
possible.
again, Allison is suggesting they could do less. Well, they could do more. We always want to look at the
negatives.
the negative side. Look at the positive side.
We've just been a fan for over 25 years, so we know how it goes, bro. That's
Right.
all it is. We're just being realistic.
Well,
that's all it is.
I have to say, speaking of being realistic, we dogged our man Stoner last year or was this year when he called Brian Robinson a jag. He didn't mean it disrespectfully as in like he's a bad player. He meant that he is just another running back. He's nothing super special. Now that we're a season and a half in, Trev, I kind of need to issue an apology to Stoner because Brian Robinson has only got one 100-yard game under his belt in that time.
Yeah.
And in fact, as far as like even just impressive games go, he's had impressive runs. And I think that he has some great tendencies that I'd like to see. But Gus here bringing up what I've been starting to get around to these last few games. Chris Rodriguez is going to end up leading this team in rushing. And Chris Rodriguez might be the best pure running back on the team right now.
That's a goddamn shame that that's the case. That is a shame.
Got a GD and everything, man.
That's a shame. That's a shame that this team has drafted running backs in the 3rd round 2 out of the 3 years. And then out of nowhere, they get just some guy out of the 6th round and he's better than both of those guys. That's a damn shame. And it just goes to it's part of the list of all of the bad draft picks that this team has made over the course of, or this regime has made over the course of 4 drafts. That a 6th rounder can come in and in 7 or 8 games overtake 2 3rd rounders. And I said it when they drafted Robinson in the first place. I hated that pick because, hello, you've got a 3rd round Antonio Gibson already here. And I hated the Chris Rodriguez pick because, hello, you've got 2 3rd rounders already on your team. What are you drafting a 6th round running back for that's a B-Rob clone? And now he's the best guy on the roster? Oh, my, that is a shame. That is disgusting to me that happens. By the way, while we're on the while we're on the topic of issuing apologies to Stoner here, what about when you guys got all mad when I said Terry McLaurin's not a top 10 receiver? Where's my apologies for that? You're seeing that?
No.
And you all wanted AJ Brown below Terry McLaurin in the rankings. And now AJ Brown's a top 5 receiver. And Terry McLaurin's dropping down those rankings.
Just because we don't have a quarterback that can properly get him the ball.
No, we don't have an offense that is feeding him the ball either. How many games has he seen less than 6 targets? How many targets does AJ Brown have? How many times have the Philadelphia Eagles been successful as an offense compared to Washington? There's a lot that goes into it. You're not going to tell me Terry McLaurin is not one of the top wide receivers in the NFL, because that, my sir, is malarkey.
He's not top 10.
He's top 15.
You say what you want to say about that. I'm not giving you that one. I did give you the B-Rob one. And yes, Chris Rodriguez hasn't done anything yet. But what I've been seeing from Chris Rodriguez is he's been a lot more successful, I think, running consistently compared to Brian Robinson, who seems to miss the hole or try to do too much. When Brian Robinson gets in space or gets through that hole, he's a monster. And he was fined for what he does to defensive backs once he gets past there, okay? Because he will just lower the boom, all right? What I see Chris Rodriguez doing is he is decisive. He takes that and he picks the right hole. He makes one cut and he's up. There's no hesitation. There's no thinking. It is straight just running. He knows what he's supposed to do, and that's what he's been doing. In fact, this game against the Giants, Chris Rodriguez only saw 9 snaps. So
That's
know
one less than Casey Toohill.
I know that he's not doing anything except for 7 of those snaps he was in, he carried the ball. By season's end, Chris Rodriguez is going to start really eating into Brian Robinson because that's where he's eating into. Make no mistake about it. People want to point to Antonio Gibson and say, well, he's not. Antonio Gibson is a JD McKissick. Okay. You're going to put him out in the slot. You're going to have him be back there for pass blocking. You're going to have him be there as a back who can run the wheel route and make an amazing catch. What was that? 3 weeks ago? He just had an outstanding catch on the sideline. Okay. That's Antonio Gibson. It's not Chris Rodriguez. That's not Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson is a tank. Brian Robinson is a guy who can be that short yardage guy, as Tommy here is mentioning. But Chris Rodriguez is the runner that Eric Bieniemy wants. He was the guy that he wanted to draft. He was so they drafted him. And if you remember, everybody kept saying that they took this 7th round guy and Pacheco, and they made him the number 1 rusher. Well, now Washington's got a 6th round guy, and they might end up doing the same by season's end.
And B-Rob is a, say it, Trev.
Running back.
You won't say it. He'll never say it.
Refuses to give that one.
He is. I'm sorry. He just is. And it's unfortunate because, I didn't even like drafting him originally in that 3rd round, drafting a running back.
I didn't like the pick. I hated both picks too.
Yeah, I know, man.
Running backs are a dime a dozen. Okay. Don't like you can, to me, you might as well just wait unless you're going to get somebody special like a Bijan Robinson.
Right.
You might as well just wait till undrafted free agency and take your pick of the litter because there are some good quality running backs that are out there. And I know Jarrett Patterson's not anything truly special.
Who?
Jarrett frickin' Patterson. But that guy had 8 touchdowns in a game. He was Buffalo's leading rusher. He has talent. He might be into the roster NFL talent, but the guy has talent. And that was an undrafted free agent. So
and look where it got us.
And that's what I'm trying to say is you can get guys good.
I.e. Chris Rodriguez. You can just pluck a guy in the 6th round and he can be a serviceable back for 3 or 4 years.
Maybe he was the best player
Alfred
in the 6th round at the
Morris,
time, bro.
i.e. Fat Rob, i.e. all these guys.
Fat
You
Rob.
don't
I
have
miss
to draft
Rob
these
Kelly,
guys
bro.
high. How's
I miss
Jahmyr
Matt
Gibbs
Jones,
doing?
too.
How is
He's
Bijan
hurt.
Robinson transforming Atlanta's
He's sick.
offense?
He's a little sick, but he's fine.
You don't draft running backs high. You just don't do it because you can get a Chris Rodriguez in the 6th round, and he will be a serviceable back. Or Pacheco, whatever.
Yeah, our running back room is less than mediocre. So,
almost got him to say it, Nathan.
Almost.
Less than mediocre is almost jaggish. He almost said he's a jag.
Well, we got a few questions from the audience here. First one up is Code Talker Big E. We're going to get to yours next here. Panel, this is easy. Who are the weak links on the Eagles' defense? Because that's who we attack. Who is Washington attacking this Sunday against the Eagles?
For me, I think it's pretty simple. When you say the practice squad,
Practice squad.
I think their secondary is what their weakness is. Now they've got some names out there, but their secondary and their linebacking core, the middle of the field, is where Washington can attack this defense. Their linebacking core is very suspect. It's very average. It's very jaggish. That's where you have to attack them. Their defensive line, oh my goodness, right? They are studs on their defensive line, but you have to attack the right up the middle, the linebackers and the DBs, especially in the safeties. That's where you're going to get Philadelphia.
Trev, you You think that's you're saying practice squad? So
No, I agree. I agree. It's a secondary. They just picked up Kevin BR from the Titans, but they also got rid of Terrell Edmonds, who played against us last on the week 4. I don't know who their corners are, honestly.
We got Slay
and
oh yeah, but Terry sons him all the time.
And Bradbury.
And Bradbury, yeah, exactly.
Good.
But
They've got good corners out
they're
there.
Good, but
right.
But it doesn't really matter who's back there because they got that pass rush and their linebackers are really good too. So if we can get a pass off,
I don't think their linebackers are good, but okay.
Nolan Smith, Brandon Graham, and Jacoby Dean are better than Jamin Davis.
You have a
Miracle Whip.
You have some weird thing about Jacoby Dean, man.
Yeah,
I do. He is not.
He made some plays against the Vikings. Nolan Smith got a sack. Brandon Graham is a vet. He's always caused problems for us. If we can get past our pass rush and linebackers and attack the secondary and get a pass off, yeah, that's true. But until
are you talking about their outside linebackers, or are you talking about their middle linebackers?
Their linebacking group is better than ours. Everybody's linebacking group is better than the Washington Commanders.
Okay, but they could still be a weakness.
They could, but if we can't get past the pass rush, then how are we going to attack them?
Well,
if we can't get past the run defense, how are we going to pass them? But so realistically, if Sam Howell has time in the pocket and remains upright, we can beat the secondary. But if he's on his back, we can't beat nobody in the secondary. But the weakness, to answer the question, yes, is the secondary. But how do we beat it? I don't think
specifically the nickel and the safeties, as Allison pointed out, because Slay and Bradbury are good. So you're going to want to attack the third guy. You're going to want to attack the safeties, the linebackers, of course. So maybe this is a game where you can get some production from that screen game or Logan Thomas, Cole Turner type situation. Or our man Tim is in here about over or under on sacks. Well, we're going to get to the game predictions later. But I will say this, attacking the safeties is going to be a bit problematic for Washington. Now, they did have some success with that. I mean, De'Ami Brown finished with 2 catches, 51 yards, for goodness sakes. So, I mean, like, they had some success getting those long passes, but they can't rely on that because Philadelphia wants to feast the same way that the Giants feasted.
Sure.
And the way that they got 5 sacks. So it's not like they were any slouches against Washington the time before. So I don't think you need to see too many plays that are trying to attack. I don't want to see so many of these sacks where the nearest guy, the wide receiver, is like 10, 12 yards down the field and has a guy on him. There should be an outlet for Sam. There should. But it's going to take quite a bit for Washington to go after these, because I think that Antonio Gibson can match up well, but how many times are we going to see mass protection like we did against the Giants in the second half to give Sam Howell some time? Because that was Antonio Gibson and Logan Thomas were pretty much just on blocking duty at that point. They were just going to send out a couple wide receivers and you're going to try to, pick up where you can, because Martindale was sending 7 and you're keeping 7 to pick that up. So it will be interesting where Philadelphia sees Washington's weakness, and that is whether or not this offensive line is as bad as we think it is, or whether or not Sam Howell has the problem we know he has. Next question was from Big E here. For the panel, how long will it take to get a solid offensive line again? And would you all invest with Howell? So that's a little past this game, but I think that it warrants, because those are the two things that Washington has right now against the Eagles that could absolutely blow up in their face. The line, the offensive line just had their worst game of the season. Now not saying they've been pretty good. Most metrics will tell you that they've actually been fairly solid. In fact, we had Nick from PFF on Tuesday, and Stoner got a little taste of what it is on the analytics side. And although he is still an old man yelling at the clouds, he's at least understanding that even though Wiley, who is by the numbers leading in pressures, right? I believe he's pressures allowed. He's also had significantly more snaps than everybody else. So his percentage is actually lower than quite a few other players who are worse than he is. So while we don't think highly of Wiley, and a lot of people trash Leno, and Sadiq Charles is Sadiq Charles. This offensive line, I do think they can hold their own, but they are coming off their worst game. So how can we get improvement out of that and therefore get some improvement out of Sam Howell?
Exactly.
Well,
We've seen this offensive line since the offseason. There's nothing more we can do by now unless we get new faces in there. I don't know how else to answer that question.
Well, you may not see Sadiq Charles, so that's going to bring up who are you going to see? Are they going to put Stromberg in there at left guard like they did during the Giants game? Or are they going to have Chris Paul be the starter and then have Ricky Stromberg again being kind of that swing guard as the backup guy? I think they're going to go with Chris Paul if Sadiq Charles does not play.
Over Stromberg, who was the emergency guard last time?
Yeah, because Stromberg can play 3 different positions. He can play left guard, center, right guard. Whereas Chris Paul can play left guard. So you can't have Chris Paul as a emergency, a backup during the course of the game because he can only go in for one player. So now that one player is out, he can go in there and replace him, and Stromberg can still be a backup for right guard, center, left guard.
This is awful.
So I think that's possibly what could happen. And we saw him play left guard against the Cowboys last year, and he was pretty darn good. If you looked at every single snap that he had, he was actually pretty darn good. So we'll see how that works out. But kind of to emphasize Nathan's point about Wiley, and I'm not defending Wiley in any way, but I don't know what the number is in terms of the number of pass snaps or pass attempts that Sam Howell has had. I think he's top 5. Is he not top 5 in the league in pass attempts? He might even be top 3, top 2 or 3. But the point is, Andrew Wiley has also played every single snap. And some of these tackles who are maybe somebody who's had more attempts than Sam Howell. Nathan, are you looking that up by any chance?
I'm looking it up.
Okay. So there's another quarterback who has more attempts than Sam Howell. Well, their tackles have probably not played every snap because there's injuries and so on and so forth. Like Charles Leno has not played as many snaps because he missed an entire game. Wiley's played every snap. So even though he has given up the most pressures and everything, but because he's had so many more snaps than everybody else, it's not quite as bad as you think he's been. But remember, they dropped back 55 consecutive times against the Bears. No other team has done that since like 2006, since they started keeping those sort of metrics. Nobody has ever done that. So that means Andrew Wiley's got to go back 55 consecutive times. He's going to give up pressures if you go back 55 times.
Yeah. Just to clarify, because Tim's going off in the comment section there. I don't think anyone here is defending Wiley. We're giving context to the fact that while he's been bad, he might not be as bad as what some people think. We still think he's probably bottom third of starting tackles, right tackles, easily, right? But I mean, he's a lot better. The one I defend mostly is Charles Leno, who has been much better than people want to say that he is one of the worst left tackles in the league. And that's just simply not the case. He's a very middling tackle, like 16 to 18, but he's there, right? He's serviceable for this team. Sam Cosmi, I will disagree there. He's not mid at best. He has the potential to be a very good right guard in this league. The rest of them, Nick Gates, Charles, those guys are probably not on this roster for very long here. Your question about pass attempts, Sam Howell is tied for third. Kirk Cousins has 280, Mahomes has 266, and then Stafford, Goff, and Howell all have 256. Derek Carr right behind him with 255.
Yeah, so and if you look at their tackles for those teams, you're not going to see as many snaps because they have missed some time due to injury or due to whatever. Like in Leno's case, he just missed the game for personal reasons, and that just happens. But Wiley's in there every single time, every snap. And maybe to the detriment of the success of this team, he's in there every single time, but he is in there every single time. So that just gives it some context. Not defending his play. It's just not as bad.
Or the contract that he's playing under. Not defending that either.
That's what a Super Bowl will do to you.
Well, in that Super Bowl run, if you look at a Super Bowl run, he didn't give up a single sack, I think even a single pressure in their entire run. He was one of the worst graded tackles during the regular season, but then all of a sudden, during the playoff run into the Super Bowl, remember
the Super Bowl, he had 0 pressures.
Yeah, remember the Eagles went into the game trying to break the record for the most sacks in the history, and they got 0 in that Super Bowl, and Andrew Wiley was one of the reasons, and he turned that into $24 million. Good for him. But I don't know what his dead cap space is for next year, but I'd be willing to eat it to get somebody better, 100%.
Probably just play Lucas out there as the full-time unless you draft a guy is probably the answer there. So unless there's any other questions from the field, please go ahead and put those in there if you're watching us live here on YouTube. Did you two have anything else you want to bring up here when discussing the Eagles? We haven't even talked about the fact that Jalen Hurts is beat up.
He's a little beat up.
Washington, he's going to play. Nick Sirianni even came out and said they expect him to play. But, I mean, he's been taking his fair share of hits as well. Can Washington use that to their advantage? They got after him 3 times the previous game. Can they continue putting pressure on him this game Sunday?
If this knee injury for Jalen Hurts is as serious as they're making it out to be, where he has to wear a brace, I look for Nick Sirianni being smart enough to hand the ball off more to DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Gainwell rather than put Jalen Hurts in a liability zone by making him quarterback scramble or making him more mobile than he's used to. So that's what I look for from Philly, because DeAndre Swift killed us in Detroit. He gonna kill us 4 weeks ago. He's gonna kill us on Sunday. So if they just turn around and hand the ball off, that'll be just fine. But when he does drop back and make a couple passes, if we get to him, then yeah, that's going to be effective. But I see them running the ball more than having him drop back because of that left knee injury.
You'll see him on a lot of his scrambles. He's not as explosive as he's been in the past, probably because of injury and protecting himself. And he does not even, try to outmaneuver or outquick anybody. Whenever somebody gets close to him, he's going right down.
Yeah.
In years past, he didn't do that. He would make moves and, he was very elusive. This year, that has not been the case. And I'm sure it's, again, because it's injury. Early on, he had the shoulder issue that he had all the way back until last year. So he was protecting that shoulder, and now with the knee issue. So you'll see him. Anybody gets close to him, he going down. And we like to poo-poo on our defensive line and all the money that they make and the first rounders and all that, and think they're not as good. The other teams absolutely fear this defensive line for Washington, and they game plan against it. So, like you said, Trev, they're going to do things to try and offset that defensive line for Washington, or the defense, what they can do better, and they're going to attack what Washington's weakness is, which right now is throwing the ball and your linebackers. So that's what they're going to do to try and beat Washington. But Washington's going to do the same thing and turn around, and they're going to figure out how are they going to get to Jalen Hurts. And they have to stop the running game, especially Jalen Hurts running.
All right. Well, I didn't see any questions come in unless you two have anything. I think it's time for us to get to our week 8 predictions.
Yes.
Which we got some fire. So make sure you get in there with your game predictions as we get to the cool down here on Ref the District.
The cool down is brought to you by Manscaped. Ever since my Nathan started using their products, I can't cool down. Fellas, trust me. Go to Manscaped right now and get 20% off and free shipping by using the code REF. Your ladies will appreciate you. Now back to Trev, Stoner, and my Manscaped man, Nathan.
right off the bat, Gregory is asking Stoner to just stop, Stoner. Ain't nobody scared of this team. Stop gaslighting, Stoner.
I didn't say
have
scared. Put words in my mouth.
You might have inferred.
He said
it a
feared,
little
I
bit.
think.
But I'm with you, Stoner. I mean, they do game plan around that defensive line. There is no coach that's going to look at Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Montez Sweat, and Chase Young and go, these are a bunch of scrubs and we're going to be fine. Jonathan Allen is double teamed heck of a lot. I don't actually know the number. I was going to spout off a number, but then 66% of all stats are made up on the spot anyways. So I didn't want to do it.
Right.
Jonathan Allen's doubled a lot. Deron Payne gets to eat those as well. How many times does Montez Sweat and Chase Young get chipped? They absolutely game plan around them. Whether or not they're scared or if they fear, that's out of the question, right? This is a business. I don't think that anybody's truly scared, but they do game plan around that defensive line. And Allison even going as far as saying there's no way those four get to the QB. I have to disagree with that. I mean, right now, if that's the baseline for Washington, 0 sacks against Jalen Hurts, 0 sacks for those four, I'm taking the over.
Of course. Yeah. That's yeah. But I think her point probably being that they're not going to consistently get to
create
the
pressure. Sure.
Create pressure. Yeah. Which I agree with.
Jalen Hurts does a good job avoiding the pressure.
I mean, the biggest reason, the number one reason that the Philadelphia Eagles offense is as good as they are, and they're basically top 3 in every single offensive category, is because of the offensive line. That's what makes this team go. Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. He's probably bordering on great, but I wouldn't even go that far. He takes advantage of that offensive line and what they do well, and he has talented players around him. The A.J. Browns of the world and Devontae Smith-Pelly. And yes, I added Pelly because that's a Capitals guy name. Dallas Goedert. Did I say DeAndre Swift already? And guys who were here before that. Right. And now they got Julio Jones, right? Which I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But the point is that offensive line is what makes them go. How many of those drives would not have kept going if they didn't do the tush push, right? Every single time they do that, they're successful. But what if half the time they were unsuccessful and they had to punt or they had to give the ball up because they turned it over on downs? But that keeps the drives going. And Jalen Hurts is a master at getting the ball to the playmakers and letting them make plays. But that offensive line is what makes them good. And then on the other side of the ball, their defensive line is always so talented. Philadelphia has done it the right way. They've built from the line out. And they have guys in certain positions that are game changers on both sides of the ball. And they just know what they're doing. But that line is so amazing. I'm so envious of what they've done in Philadelphia.
Wow. Wow is also the fact that so far we've only got 3 scores that I see in there. TJ taking Philly 30-21, Gregory 38-14. The Eagles, somehow they managed a half sack in there. We're going to say that's probably the over under. Teams very rarely, if ever, get half a sack. They'll finish on full sack. A player could get half a sack. 2 defensive touchdowns for the Eagles even. Tommy's just going to say that we take the L. Jared 44-3 Eagles. Ooh, that I might have to shut down the live stream if it gets that ugly. Just immediately go into the insurrection. Joseph with a 28-31 Washington. Allison calling it a little bit closer than I would expect. 28-20 Eagles. Yeah. This is the first one in a long time, at least, that our poll got away from Washington. 1,500 votes, and only 37% of them believe that Washington is going to win. Jacob, though, saying we lost to a bad team last week, which means we will beat a good team this week. The pattern is pretty clear at this point. One game, we lost to Chicago. We come back, we beat Atlanta. We lost to a bad Giants team. So we're saying the pattern is now we'll beat the Eagles. It's crazy. We win games like this, but play horrible against bad teams. I said last week I got more faith in us beating Philly than the Giants that can continue this one. Scott Dean, Eagles by 10 at least, and I'm a Commanders fan. The defensive line will get sacks, but may break 10. Let's get predictions in there. Mike taking the Eagles 44-10. Washington from Tim 26-22. We need to hurt our draft. Thanks, Tim, for joining us tonight. Eagles short week 27-24. Manders. How that goes. EE 28-10. What say you, Trev?
31-13 Philadelphia.
Ooh, ugly.
I just don't see how we make an adjustment to keep Sam Howell up against this Philly defense in 1 week. I just don't see it. We played against worse teams with the worst pass rush attack, and you couldn't tell once the game was turned on. Now we're going up against one that has a vaunted pass rushing attack. And I love this team. I will always be a homer for this team, but today I'm just being realistic. We're losing 31-13. If we can only score 7 against the New York Giants, who have
scored 30 against 31 against
the Eagles,
Philly the last time.
Cool.
I'm just saying, you said only 7 against the Giants, but also 31 against the Eagles.
And 20 against the Chicago Bears, who have a horrible defense too. So I'm just 31-13 Philly. Sorry.
So if I bet you, Trev, if I were to place a bet and I said you have to give me, I'm going to take Washington, but you have to give me 17 points. You do that?
Yeah. We're not scoring 17 points.
No,
I'm
he's saying
you give me
Washington loses, or Washington if they either win or they lose within 17 points.
So you win the game or they lose by more than 17 points. You would give me 17 to take Washington.
Yeah,
you're taking Philly, but they have to win by 17 or more points.
Chicago beat us by 20. Yes, I'm taking that. That's
okay. Oh, Trevi is right, Gus. Oh, Trevi.
We're going to lose by more than 17. I'm telling you guys.
Yeah, definitely not.
If we lose, it's going to be a blowout.
All right. So what do we got, Stoner? We got 31-13 from Trev for the bad guys.
This is something I completely believe to be true today. And I'm not saying tomorrow, or I'm not saying like Sunday night, Monday, or whatever. Ron Rivera has not, let me repeat this, Ron Rivera has not lost the locker room. That has not happened yet. It could happen if something bad happens on Sunday.
Bro, it's already happened. Go ahead.
He has not lost the locker room. When you lose a locker room, you lose. That means they've lost respect for him as a coach. And that is not to this point. I say this all the time, but Washington has professional leaders in that locker room. And they are not going to let this team go out against Philadelphia and put in a bad performance after they just put in a bad performance the previous week. I don't care what people think about this team, the way it performed last week. They're not going to do it 2 weeks in a row. I don't believe that. However, I still don't think they're going to win the game, but I think they're going to put in a good performance. Not a moral victory, like I believe the other game was a moral victory. But this is not going to be a moral victory when they lose, but they're going to keep it fairly close. And they're going to start coming back in the fourth quarter when they're down about 14 points. And they're going to come back and they're going to make a game of it. And they're going to scare Philly. But Philly's going to be able to run out the clock in the fourth quarter. I've got it. Philadelphia 27, Washington 21.
So it's up to me to save the day for Washington Commanders fans And hey, Scotty, I just looked it up. They're wearing the burgundy jerseys this game against the Eagles. I love those
Nice.
burgundies.
Sure.
Those burgundies look very good.
I love them.
I mentioned Ron Rivera 3-4 against the Eagles. Most of these games have been close. There was the loss last year, 24-8, or 2 years ago. 2022. That was last year. That was not a good one. Washington then coming back and beating them 32-21. So those were really the only games kind of out of pocket. Outside of that, all the games were within 10 points from the Ron Rivera years. 17-27 Washington, 14-20, 27-17 Philly, 20-16 Philly, 24-8 Philly, 21-32, and then 34-31. So most of these games have been very close. The matchup predictor has the Philadelphia Eagles 73% favorites. They have Philadelphia, the Vegas line is 6.5. And Stoner was talking about leaders, and Allison was wondering who Terry McLaurin, Jonathan Allen are quiet but very powerful leaders within that locker room. They are going to get this team together. Gregory was saying that this reminds him of the Buffalo Bills game. And so I'm going to go a different direction than you, Stoner, because they played Buffalo very strongly up until the fourth quarter, and then it got out of hand. You're saying it's going to get out of hand and Washington's going to come and make it respectable. I think we're going to flip-flop that. I think Washington is going to keep pace with the Philadelphia Eagles, and then it's going to not go their way in the fourth quarter. Washington's going to lose this one, I'll say, to keep it within the 6.5, 22-16.
This is good. This is good, by the way. When all three of us are convinced it's going to go one way, it usually goes the other way.
One could certainly hope.
That's usually, I mean, I can go back and look, and I bet you whenever there's been a consensus, we've been wrong.
Tommy's saying Terry's not the type. I disagree.
No,
he
big
is
time the type.
He is very much a quiet leader. He is absolutely, he's not an in-your-face guy. He's not Jonathan Allen is the de facto leader of that locker room. You listen to anybody. Tress Way talks about it. They had a joke. Tress Way was joking because someone called him like the OG, and he was like, "Me, OG? I'm only an OG because Jonathan Allen tells people that I'm an OG." Jonathan Allen runs that locker room. And I do believe he's going to have this team motivated, regardless of what you think of the coordinators or the head coach. And I think this will be a much closer game than what some people are predicting. But I just like Mike said in the chat, sorry, I didn't start Mike. Mike in the chat was like, it's hard to pick the Commanders at this point. They need to really show us something. We have not seen them be consistent. We've seen 3 victories against teams that are just not good. The Cardinals, not good. Denver, not good. The Falcons are frauds. They're not good. We've seen them lose to bad teams. If they only lost to good teams like they have with the Eagles and the Bills, I'd give them a puncher's chance, right? I'd be like, hey, no, they can do this. They've been there. They kept up with the Bills through 3 quarters and 5 minutes. Unfortunately, there's still 10 minutes to go in that game, and it didn't go their way. They kept up with Philly, sent them to overtime, but they fell, right? That would tell me, hey, this is a team that can compete, but they've also had these bad losses that tell me I just don't know where Washington's going. They could go on a Ron Rivera midseason 6-game run that puts them in contention, and as Tim mentioned, out of a good draft spot for next year. But until they start that run, I just don't know that I can pick this game to be the start of that run.
Exactly.
I think that's completely fair, but again, let me refute that by saying that just because that has happened in the past does not mean it is definitely going to happen in the future in every game. They're going to win some games this year that we do not expect them to win. And they're going to lose some games we didn't expect them to lose, although The rest of the way, I don't think we're going to have any of those games, but we've had some already with the likes of Chicago and New York. We did not expect them to lose those games. But they're going to win some games we don't expect them to. Even the worst teams in the NFL win games that they're not supposed to. When the Jets beat the Eagles a couple weeks ago, when who was it that San Fran lost to a bad team 2 weeks ago? Last week was
The Browns.
They lost, but the week before was a team they didn't expect to lose to, right? So it happens every week. That doesn't mean that this is going to be the week that they beat a team that they're not supposed to, but they are going to do it at some point this year. They're not going to go 3-14. I promise you that. So if you look at the rest of their schedule and their dogs against every team the rest of this year, they're going to win some of those games. So this could be that one. I don't think it is, but let's just not say because they're not good and they've lost to bad teams and they haven't been consistent and their offenses sucked and their defenses sucked that they're going to lose every single game, because that's not true. That's just
no, but we're losing Sunday.
Probably.
Well, let's get to how Sunday is going to go with some in-game predictions. Let's get those dollas in the chat, y'all.
Okay.
Dalla, the first one everyone wants to see is the one that's been in the chat up and down, the sack total on Sam Howell. Yep. How many sacks does Philadelphia get against Sam Howell? 5 last time these two teams met.
Mm-hmm.
Allison even gave us $1 because she bet me while we were talking about this game. She bet me if they don't get 10, I'll donate $1 to the channel. She paid up. How about this time? Are the Philadelphia Eagles going to get 9.5 or more sacks?
No.
The reason why I did 9.5 is to make the 10 the over under is 9.5, Stoner. So 10 would be everyone saying that they're going to get double-digit sacks against Sam Howell. Is it going to happen? Trev says no. Stoner.
No,
it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
That's insane. Do you know how many 10 sacks are? Do you realize what kind of number that? What's the all-time record? Like 11?
I think so.
I mean, are we going to get to an all-time record sacks after all these weeks of Sam getting sacked? You don't think they've learned something at this point, finally, that they're going to finally say we have to protect Sam? They tried last week, by the way, as mentioned, Nathan
14,
mentioned earlier
by the way, the Philadelphia Eagles against the
14.
Giants, by the way, 14.
Yeah. As Nathan mentioned earlier, Washington ran like 14 plays with 7 guys protecting. So they recognized it. Now they didn't execute very well on some of those, but they at least attempted to protect Sam a little bit more. So yes, they're going to try everything to protect. I was going to throw out a number much different than that and still go under. But now if anyone is going to go over the 9.5, I'm going to take that bet.
There's a lot of people saying they're going to get double digits. I mean, you even have people saying Reddick's going to get 5 sacks by himself. Mike Lee's at 7.
7.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
5,
going
at
under.
Least 8. Gregory saying 10.5. They're under.
Trevor,
they're
Nathan.
under. No, they're under 10.5. You give us that number
7
of 7 sacks.
Yeah,
I'd take the under.
I'll take an under too. Under
6.
They'll get that.
I'm gonna go under. I think they'll get 4 or 5 sacks.
I'm gonna say 6.
Trevor will go with 6. Okay. I mean, I was
5.5.
I was going to throw out 4, and I would have gone under.
Okay, so 5.5. The line is set. Trev's taking the over, and we'll take the under.
Yeah. All right.
I do think that Washington can do a lot to help. I do think Sam is going to do things that are not going to be great, and it's not going to be the offensive line. It is going to be Sam Howell, and that's just something that's one of those bumps and bruises that we have to take when it comes to Sam Howell being QB1.
Yeah.
Now, my question is he nearly threw for 300 yards last time these two teams met?
Mm-hmm.
If I set it at 255.5 for passing yardage, you guys going to go over or under?
I would go under that.
Trev, where are you at? 255.5 yards for Sam Howell. Over or under?
I'm going to go under.
I will take the over.
All right. Nathan, over 255.5.
255.5.
Howell pass yards.
I'm going
All right.
under.
I do think Sam Howell, there's if we're saying that he's not going to get sacked a lot, we know Eric Bieniemy is going to call 60% pass plays. So
65%, yeah.
we've seen
Yeah.
Sam Howell be able to get, I mean, the guy's got NFL arm talent. That is definitely not the question for him. And he's got enough athleticism to also be good in this league. The question is whether or not he can ever fix the sack issue. We've talked with Matt Sims about it. We're going to talk with Jason Campbell tomorrow about it. That is going to be the biggest question, is can he fix that in his NFL career? You might give him a pass this year, but David Carr never fixed it and ended up out of the league. Rob Johnson, who everyone's been mentioning from the 90s, had, some great, throwing stats, but could not stop getting sacked. He was a one and done in the league. So I think that we'll have to wait and see. And unfortunately, I don't think Sam Howell's going to have the opportunity, because I do think it's going to be a new regime, but I do think he can make the 256 yards or more for this game against the Eagles. Turnover battle, gentlemen. This has been one of those things that Washington has struggled with, is winning the turnover battle. Can they win that this game? And how is it going to happen?
They are the only way they win the battle is if they put pressure on Jalen Hurts. That's the only way. If they make him uncomfortable back there, strip sack, make him force a throw into coverage where he shouldn't throw it, that's the only way.
All right. Center.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a high turnover game either way. Both of these teams don't force a lot of turnovers, but I think each team is going to force one turnover. So I think it's going to be even on the turnover differential. Is that a cop out? I'm going to say it's going to be even. Neither team is going to win the turnover battle.
All right, I'll go against it. Trev, you with me or are you with Stone?
I'm with you, Nathan.
There we go. I'll just send my dollars through PayPal. It's fine.
I gotta go grab my girlfriend from work, but I'll get my $1 and I gotta bounce.
All right,
Trev,
you got any more?
$1. Sam Howell throws 2 interceptions at home because that's where he throws the most picks.
Yep.
Yes.
Wait, I gotta write these down real quick. Nathan and Trev. All right, Trev, Howell, 2 turnovers.
Yep.
No, I'm with Nathan on this. I don't think so either. I mean, I have to because I just said they're only going to have one. So, all right, 2 turnovers.
AJ Brown, 2 receiving touchdowns.
Come on.
I'll say no.
Yeah.
I got one for Commanders coming up. Don't worry.
All right, hang on. Trev, AJ Brown, 2 TDs. All right.
And Joey Sly misses a field goal.
All right.
This is my last.
What are you doing on that, Nathan?
Field goal or are extra points included in it? He misses 1 kick.
Yeah, he misses 1 kick.
Misses 1 kick. I'll go with you on that one, Trev.
All right, so I'll go. I mean, I'll go. He doesn't miss any.
All right.
Come on, Stoner. Look who's snapping the ball.
He's got to take the action. He's got to take the action. All right, Trev, we appreciate
Love you guys.
Love you.
See you,
Have a
buddy.
great night. We are still talking the Commanders, and I'm prepared for this. So we are going to bring this up and this up, and look at that. Look at me be all sorts of prepared here. Mike going with an AJ Brown one as well. 200 yards receiving. I think he breaks the century mark.
All right, I'll go under that.
Okay, but 200 is too much. 200. I don't think he has that good of a game 2 games in a row. I do think Smith is going to have a much better game than what he did last time, and it's not like he was any slouch last time.
Yeah.
But I do think that is one. So
I got one for you.
Go ahead. Hit us with it.
You will see Marcus Mariota take a snap. And I'm not going to give you any of the reasons why. I'm just going to say very general. Marcus Mariota will take a snap in this game.
I say no. I say no. I was actually thinking before I started getting pretty gamish on Sam Howell, maybe we have Jacoby Brissett sighting.
Yeah, that's not happening.
But yeah, I started then saying how he's going to do well, so I couldn't do that one. Jalen Hurts 2 rushing touchdowns, not going to happen.
Nope, not going to happen. This is not going to be a high scoring game.
Not going to happen.
Even though I have 27-21.
Gus saying you're predicting body bag game 2.0, which I think we already had one of those with Philadelphia. They had one a few years back ago that I remember.
So this would be 3.0?
Yeah, Washington and Philadelphia. Just everybody was getting hurt there. Uptown Dre, we finally run Robinson and he'll get 70 yards in a tutty. I don't think that happens.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. I don't see that happening.
At least 5 carries for Chris Rodriguez.
Wow, that's a lot. I mean, that's kind of low. He had 7 the last game.
And 9 snaps.
Yeah, 7 carries and 9 snaps. And you're saying 5 carries.
Just 5. At least 5.
Probably right.
5. Yeah, I think he's going to get at least 5. We'll see how that one plays out. We'll wait for any more dollars, but we are still alive in our survivor leagues.
Oh,
so we have to pick a few. The Philadelphia Eagles are 6.5 favorites. Buffalo, which I believe we've already picked in at least one league, they're 9-point favorites at home over the Buccaneers on Thursday. See any other big lines? Miami over the Patriots at home, 9-point favorites there.
Miami just lost too, right? And they're at home. All right,
They've got a lot of injuries. Kansas City over the Broncos, they're away, but 7-point favorites. And Baltimore away over the Cardinals, 8.5-point favorites. Chargers, 8.5 favorites at home over the Bears. And Detroit at home over the Raiders, 8-point favorites as well.
All right. In this first league that I'm looking at, we do have some subtle differences. We can't take Miami. We can't take Buffalo. We cannot take Dallas. We can't take Seattle. We can't take Kansas City. We can't take Baltimore. We can take Detroit at home
over the Raiders.
Almost an 80% win probability.
Kind of like that one. Quan Martin did have a concussion. He did get back in the game though, Mike. So he is limited in practice, I believe.
Was he limited today? No, he wasn't even on the
full
list.
practice. There you go. So Quan Martin could, in fact, Demander build on last week, which I thought he played well. I do have a Emmanuel Forbes one before we pick. Emmanuel Forbes, 0 defensive snaps.
Okay, I'll go over that.
Okay.
I have inside information, though. I'm cheating. Not really.
Gregory saying Detroit. I mean, it's a nice one. Detroit did just lay a stinker, and I don't think they'll lay 2 stinkers in a row.
Against who's the quarterback?
The Raiders.
Hoyer.
Oh yeah, it's Brandon Hoyer.
But Brian Hoyer was it? Yeah, Brian Hoyer. And we got to take Detroit, right?
Yeah. Are we going to take them in both? I guess now.
Let me look at the other one. I'm going to take them here and now for this one. Now let me go to
we got to get
other
some
one
people knocked out. That's the thing with these survivor leagues, right? Like it's like,
yeah,
you know, I think we're down to the last 13-1. And we're
let's see. In this particular one, you're correct. There are 13 left. And yeah, 13 left in this one out of 78 original. Then the other one, I got to go to the other league.
Well, while you go that, St. Juice will get another interception from EE. He's only got the one on his career, so I don't think it's likely he's gonna double up so closely together. But I do like what St. Juice is bringing. We got to do a lot of this, the last game, his little lock it up celebration. They were going his way a lot. Giants were looking at St. Juice as the one. It will be interesting because Forbes was the one who was being picked on. I feel like that's disingenuous though, right, Stoner? It wasn't so much that Forbes was being picked on. Forbes was being lined up against AJ Brown. So they were just targeting AJ Brown. Right. They didn't care who was on him because AJ Brown even got his over Kendall Fuller. So, and over St. Juice. So I think it's a little less that, but I don't think that St. Juice is going to get another pick, but I do think that he's going to get have another solid game. And with the pass breakup, the guy is a legit corner. I really do like what St. Juice brings to this team here.
He just doesn't have that top end speed though, just to hang with those speedy receivers. Like you don't want to put him on Tyreek Hill when they play the Dolphins.
I would say that's true.
Cannot do
all of our wide receiver or all of our cornerbacks. I think they have quickness. They don't have speed, which is also why Jack Del Rio. I know everyone loves to complain about this. It's why our cornerbacks play 10 yards off. Okay. They have
in front of them. They
have the ability to keep everything in front of them. They have the quickness to jump routes and stop what's in front of them. But as soon as they get by them, you're hoping Derek Force is out. Reminder. So you're hoping Percy Butler, who we've seen not come over and provide that top coverage, that's what you're hoping. So yeah, it's going to be a bit rough.
And Nathan slid this in earlier. And I know you're going to promote it before we went as well, but in case you didn't hear that, Jason Campbell, former Redskins quarterback Jason Campbell, will be on our Daily Commanders update tomorrow. You do not want to miss that, because what are we going to talk about? Quarterbacks, sacks, offensive coordinators, offensive lines. That's what we're going to talk about with Jason Campbell on our DCU tomorrow. So make sure you tune in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're picking Detroit in both of these.
This other league, we still have Philly available. We still have Dallas available. Dallas at home against the Rams is a 73%.
Nah,
but Detroit is still basically 80% at home against Vegas, I think.
Yeah, the only problem with picking Detroit is a lot of people will end up picking Detroit, so we probably won't knock a lot of people out. But worry less about that and just keep surviving. We'll take that. Dotson, Louis going with the Dotson one, which is, I think, important because he needs that bounce back game. And this could be our last one before heading out here. 0 drops, says Louis.
I agree.
I think that's accurate. I really think that hurt him. I really think that mentally, like, this is a guy who was talked about, and I didn't bring this up when we were talking with JP on Monday. He talked about how that was his strength, and we talked about that amazing catch on the sideline. But this is the guy who, at draft time, like, he purposely was holding a football at all times. You just never saw him without it. And he talked about it. He's like, yeah, I just always have a ball in my hand. That's what he does. And so for him, I would not be surprised. We haven't been at practices if he's been sitting there with the jug machine after practice and just going until he has like 100 catches in a row, because that's just the kind of character he is. That's the kind of player he wants to be. So I do expect him to not drop a pass. Now, question is how many targets he's going to have. Maybe 3.
Okay, I'll go over.
I'll
go over 3.5.
Keep going up, because I think he'll probably have 5.
You started with 3, so
I said maybe 3. I was looking. I was trying to get your feeling there. I wasn't setting.
All right, so 5 targets. Gosh darn it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with under.
Just 5. All right, so
no, 5.5.
5.5. I didn't say 6.
Oh, I know. I'm saying 5.5.
All right. Well, I'm not going to take that one. I will say hi to Yam, who's dropping in here and already asking for Jack Del Rio to be fired. We'll have to wait for that. We expect a dogfight Sunday. we are with the 66% of our viewers who have picked Philadelphia in our poll. We do appreciate everybody jumping in here with us. So thank you for that. Make sure you've hit that like and subscribe button. And if you like the motion graphics, let us know. We still plan on improving them, but it was a new feature we wanted to check out. If you're listening to us on any of the audio platforms, make sure you're subbed there. Get those auto downloads. We had a conversation with the Believe Network today. We think it went really well, and we expect big things coming up here for the channel, but we need your support as we do it. So thank you for that. And until next time, actually, before I'm going to pitch it again. You pitched it, pre-pitched it. I teased it. You pitched it. We're pitching again. Jason Campbell tomorrow, 7:30. It's going to be out there wherever you want to listen to. Jason Campbell tomorrow. If you have questions, we are going to put up the promo graphic for it here on YouTube. We're going to put it up on our Twitter page as well. If you have questions for him, make sure you get into the chat, and we'll see if we can't fit that in with our time with former Redskins QB Jason Campbell. One of my favorites, man. I really thought he was going to be a big deal, but I forgot Joe Gibbs. Not really a quarterback guru. Not really a quarterback guru. But until next time.
Let's try to get a win this week, Nathan.
Be a fan.